In recent times, there's been quite a stir, and the latest buzz comes from Joe Igbokwe's strong comments about Nnamdi Kanu. Now, for those who are just tuning in, Nnamdi Kanu is the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, the group that has been pushing for the secession of the southeast region of Nigeria. This is a major issue, one that has sparked debates, protests, and even violence in some parts of the country. So, here's what happened. Joe Igbokwe, a politician and public figure, came out and said something that's been making waves. He said, and I quote, "Nnamdi Kanu is no longer sounding like a normal person." Strong words, right? Igbokwe wasn't just commenting on Kanu's legal troubles or his fight for Biafra. He was directly addressing the way Kanu has been acting, particularly in court. And this isn't the first time that Igbokwe has made such remarks. Over the past few months, there have been growing concerns about Kanu's behavior, and Igbokwe isn't the only one who's noticed it. But why is this important? Why is this comment so significant? Well, for starters, Kanu has been in detention for quite some time now, facing serious charges. He's been accused of terrorism, inciting violence, and leading a group that the Nigerian government has labeled a terrorist organization. His legal team has been working tirelessly to get him released, and at the same time, his supporters have been vocal, protesting his detention and calling for his freedom. But here's the thing. Kanu isn't just a political figure, he's a symbol for many people, especially in the southeast. His followers see him as a leader, someone who is fighting for their rights, their land, and their future. So when Igbokwe says that Kanu is no longer sounding like a normal person, it raises a lot of questions. What does he mean by that? Is Kanu losing control? Is his fight for Biafra becoming something more extreme? Now let's look at Igbokwe's statement a little more closely. He's suggesting that Kanu's behavior in court is beyond what's acceptable. That's a serious claim. When a political figure says something like that, it's not just about personal opinion. It's about shaping public perception. And that's exactly what Igbokwe is doing here. By saying that Kanu is no longer sounding like a normal person, Igbokwe is positioning Kanu as someone who has crossed the line, someone whose actions are unpredictable and potentially dangerous. But is this fair? Is Kanu really losing his mind, or is he simply reacting to the pressure and the injustice he's facing? For many of Kanu's supporters, these accusations feel like another attack on their leader. They see Kanu as a man who has been wronged, a man who is standing up for the rights of his people, and they believe he's being treated unfairly. So when someone like Igbokwe comes out and says Kanu is no longer acting normal, it feels like a personal attack. And you can't blame them for feeling that way. After all, if you're fighting for something as big as the independence of an entire region, there's bound to be tension, frustration, and even anger. But does that mean Kanu's actions are justified? This is where the debate gets complicated. On one hand, Kanu is a man who has been at the forefront of a movement that calls for the independence of Biafra, a region that has felt marginalized by the central government for decades. The Biafran issue is not new. It dates back to the Nigerian Civil War, which lasted from 1967 to 1970. That war was fought over the secession of Biafra, and it ended in tragedy, with millions of lives lost. The scars of that war still run deep, and many people in the southeast feel that they've been left behind by the rest of the country. So when Kanu speaks out against the Nigerian government, he's speaking to that deep-seated pain and frustration. He's not just fighting for Biafra, he's fighting for the dignity of his people. But on the other hand, we have to ask ourselves, is Kanu's approach the right one? Is pushing for secession and calling for violent resistance the best way to solve the problems facing the southeast? Igbokwe and many others would argue that Kanu's actions are doing more harm than good. They believe that his rhetoric is only fueling division and violence, and that it's making the situation worse. In a country as diverse and complex as Nigeria, the idea of breaking apart is not something that should be taken lightly. The risk of instability and further conflict is too great. This brings us to a bigger question. How do we address the issues facing the Southeast without resorting to violence or secession? How do we find a solution that brings peace, unity, and prosperity to all Nigerians, regardless of their ethnic background or region? Igbokwe, in his comments, is essentially calling for a more measured approach, one that doesn't involve radical actions or extreme rhetoric. He's asking for Kanu to tone it down, to focus on dialogue, and to work within the framework of the law. But is that even possible? The truth is, the Biafran issue is not something that can be easily solved. It's deeply rooted in history, in politics, and in the struggles of the people who live in that region. It's a problem that requires careful thought, dialogue, and compromise. But the question is Kanu willing to listen? Is he willing to take a step back and consider other options? Or is he too far gone, too focused on his cause to see the bigger picture? At the end of the day, the situation with Nnamdi Kanu is a reflection of the larger issues facing Nigeria as a whole. It's about more than just one man or one movement. It's about how we, as a nation, address our differences and find ways to live together peacefully. And that's something that we all need to think about, because if we don't, we risk repeating the mistakes of the past. So, what does the future hold for Nnamdi Kanu, for IPOB, and for the people of the Southeast? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The struggle for Biafra is far from over, and the debate over how to achieve a fair and just solution will continue to rage on. For now, we wait to see how the court case unfolds and whether or not Kanu will be granted bail or face further charges. But whatever happens, it's clear that this issue will remain a hot topic in Nigerian politics for years to come. As we look ahead, the stakes continue to rise. Kanu's actions and indeed his words are sparking a fire that seems to be burning brighter every day. The question that everyone's been asking is whether this issue will lead to a peaceful resolution or whether it will escalate into something far more dangerous. For a lot of people, this is not just a political issue. It's personal. People have very strong opinions about Kanu and the IPOB movement. Some view him as a hero, a voice for the oppressed, someone who's standing up against what they see as a corrupt government. Others see him as a threat, someone who's pushing the country toward instability and chaos. But in the end, the question is not just about Kanu. It's about the state of Nigeria itself. If we're honest, the Biafran issue is not just about one man or one movement. It's a reflection of much deeper issues in the country. Economic inequality, ethnic tensions, a lack of infrastructure and development in certain regions, and the failure of the government to address these concerns effectively. Kanu may be at the center of this storm right now, but the underlying causes of the unrest are much broader. How do we address these issues without tearing the country apart? How do we give people a sense of justice and inclusion without resorting to violence or extremism? This is where the real challenge lies for the Nigerian government. It's not just about locking up Kanu or labeling him as a criminal. It's about addressing the root causes of the frustrations and anger that have led to this moment. What kind of leadership is needed to bridge the divide between the Southeast and the rest of the country? How do we foster trust between the government and marginalized groups? The reality is that these are questions that go beyond any one individual. These are questions that go to the heart of Nigeria's future. Now, I know many of you might be thinking, but what does Kanu's behavior have to do with this? Well, it's important because the way Kanu behaves, the way he speaks, and the way he carries himself influences how others perceive the movement he leads. If his words are inflammatory, if his actions are seen as extreme, that can turn the narrative in a direction that may be more difficult to control. But if Kanu is able to moderate his approach, if he's able to focus on dialogue and peaceful negotiation, then maybe, just maybe, there's a path forward. But again, that's easier said than done. Kanu has made a career of being defiant, of speaking out against the system that he sees as oppressing his people. So the question is, can he be the bridge builder that some of his supporters want him to be? Or is he too far gone, too entrenched in his own ideology to listen to the voices of reason? This is where the real debate comes in. Some people believe that Kanu's behavior in court is a reflection of his deep frustration with the system, a system that he feels has consistently denied him and his people justice. Others believe that Kanu's behavior is a sign of instability, a sign that he's no longer in control of the situation. And then there are those who say that the Nigerian government's treatment of Kanu is a reflection of the country's broader failures. Its failure to live up to its promises, its failure to address the needs of the people, and its failure to create a truly inclusive society. But no matter which side you're on, one thing is clear: this situation is far from over. Kanu's legal battle is just one chapter in a much larger story. The question is, how will it end? Will Kanu be released? Will he face additional charges? Will he continue his fight for Biafra, or will he change course and seek a different path? For now, we watch and wait. We follow the news, we listen to the experts, and we form our own opinions. But one thing is certain: the story of Nnamdi Kanu and the story of IPOB is far from finished. This is a moment in Nigerian history that will be remembered, for better or for worse, and it's one that we all need to pay attention to. And before I wrap up, don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying the conversation, and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest updates. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole situation. Do you agree with Joe Igbokwe's statement, or do you believe Kanu's actions are justified? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this. All right, I'll leave it there for now. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to stay informed and engaged. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and keep the conversation going.